Hey guys, it's Fred coming at you live. It's going to be an interesting video for some of you, for any of mine and Sheila's followers. This will be on Fred McCoy 40, but it'll still be interesting. She may even post it on hers too if she wants. But guys, we again, this Buford Pusser thing, people will distract as much as they can. They want to distract as much as possible, point you in any direction other than poor old Buford Pusser, that he was falsely accused, that someone bared false witness against this dead man. This video here is going to be interesting. This video here is going to have videos, it's going to have photographs, it's going to have a lot of personal information. Guys, I'm real concerned about this fella named I'm not even going to put his name. I'm not even going to put his name. It's out there. Everybody on all these Facebook pages and Buford Pusser pages are as familiar with him as they are Mike Elam or Baldwin, Oakley Dean Baldwin. And this fella, he's got a bunch of videos out, a bunch of gun videos. And the other day, Elam posted his video where he was on a rant, and he no more got off his rant than this old boy come on his channel, and boy, he was on a rant. He said he was a hackler or whatever that word was. He called himself something. I'm not into science fiction movies and stuff, but evidently it's something that reaps havoc on you. And he said that anybody talks about Elam or Baldwin, that he's really they're going to pay, and he'll get revenge. And it was real, very, very threatening letter or video, especially the Kraken. He was the Kraken, and that he was going to get him. And it was, as been a police officer for 40 years, I took it as a threat, not necessarily to Sheila and I. Mike Elam had named several people in his video, and I think he was pointed it towards them, or I did. I don't know who it's pointed at. I know that he's got a bunch of videos with firearms, and I'm not sure that this fella, in my opinion, after taking many over the years to Eastern State Mental Hospital for evaluations and setting in on evaluations and watching some of the characteristics of people with mental instabilities, and this is my opinion. I'm not no doctor. I didn't even stay at a Holiday Inn. This is just my opinion. I'm just talking out loud because he's caused some concern. Now, after I posted videos and trying to find out where he lived, who he was for sure, because he's got so many false and fake names and YouTube channels and Facebook pages, I'm not even sure at this point. If I knew for sure where he was from or what city or county, I'd notify the sheriff or the police chief there and have them to do a welfare check, more or less. He's posted on his page that he's got a concealed carry gun permit. He's got hundreds of gun videos, very unsafe with guns, has been a firearms instructor myself over the last 40, 50 years, both police and civilian. But that's not the point. The point is the fact that he was making threats, and that he's got the means and he's got the ability to commit a crime. After I posted the other videos, he took his down. So I've taken mine down, and I've tried to notify YouTube that they may want to look into this fella. I guess he's took it personal. I'm not trying to hurt this fella. I'm worried about him. He seems to have, and you know, who goes out there with a mental condition and recognizes it themselves? Not everybody goes out and self-diagnoses themselves, says, yep, I need help. Nobody does that. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to let this fella know that what he's saying, what he's doing, and the videos that he's making, that's not something that a sane person does in my mind. That's my opines. I'm just opining. This morning somebody sent me a thing where he had put out a thing, and he said, oh, I'm going to investigate Fred McCoy. I'm going to investigate that sheriff that he turned in. I'm going to see. I read where that sheriff was the youngest sheriff ever elected and that everybody loved him. Well, he's right. He's right. He elected many times in Pike County throughout the years. He had people fooled, including myself. I voted for him, my whole family, everybody. Well-liked fella. I never said he wasn't well-liked. I said he was a criminal. I said he protected drug dealers. I said he had selective law enforcement. This is one that I can tell you with video and audio and tapes that took payoffs, that protected drug dealers. Unlike Buford Pusser, that's why I can relate to Buford Pusser, because nobody's ever produced any of that with Buford Pusser. We produced so much of it. We had 2 briefcases full of audio tapes, not counting what the FBI had. But, so I wanted to go over a couple of things. I might save this old boy some work. I'm going to try to help him out. You know, the good thing about Mike Elam and Oakley Baldwin and this guy here, we're proving them wrong. Truth with proof, Buford.
Truth with proof. Isn't that right, Buford?
Absolutely, Pauline.
He's the one that doubted that was really Buford's voice on an AI video. And that's another clue, guys. That's not thinking correctly when you actually believe that an AI video is somebody was trying to pass that off as Buford's voice. I'm going to go on because this video is going to be lengthy. Some of you may enjoy it. Some of you that really enjoy mine and Sheila's videos. Sheila's more than mine, I'm sure, because look at her subscribers and viewers and look at the amount I've got. So, but I would much rather her to have more anyway. That's my love of my life. Commonwealth of Kentucky, Office of the Attorney General, April the 3rd, 1992. Guys, we turned this sheriff in August the 7th of 1987. August the 7th, 1987, we turned a sheriff in for corruption. We went to the media. Now, we had already gone to the FBI. We'd already gone to the state police. Elsie talks about what a good job the sheriff done or how good everybody liked him. Yeah, you're exactly right. State police come in and do an investigation the magistrate had called for, and first thing he does, introduce himself, Special Investigations, Trooper so-and-so. I'm here to, I know this is a bunch of bullcrap the magistrate's complaining on, and my family's been friends with Fuzzy all their life. Well, do you really start shoveling out the files and the evidence? The magistrate had actually made a complaint to the state police because we had approached him and told him the sheriff was returning drug dealers their drug money that we had confiscated from them because our marked money was inside of their money. We would buy bust where they would buy, and we would mark the money, usually with go to the serial number, and we'd either find a 7-1 or a 8-5. That was our unit numbers back then. And we would circle them, black them in, some little something like that nobody else would know who looks at serial numbers, first of all, but nobody else, if you looked at it, you wouldn't think nothing about it. And we'd confiscate their money, and he was giving back thousands of dollars to the drug dealers that was his friends, his supporters, his payees. They actually did pay him. Chief Deputy told us that he watched one of them dumped a Piggly Wiggly bag full of money out on his desk. Big supporter of his. You know, you can buy votes with political campaigns. You can there's many ways to take payoffs. You don't just have to reach out and give a man a check and say this is for a payoff. You support that man during an election and get him reelected. That's what a sheriff wants. But so we had gone to the media on August the 7th, 1989. It's easy to 89. And we'd gone to the FBI in March, I think it was 1987. So the FBI had been investigating this for 2 years, U.S. Attorney's Office. August 7th, 1989, held a press conference, turned the sheriff in for corruption. Godfather, small mafia, and him the Godfather. That's what we labeled it. That wasn't only the sheriff, that was the Commonwealth Attorney, and that was several others in the justice system there that was corrupt. Now, this is April the 3rd, 92. See, Truth with proof.
Truth with proof. Isn't that right, Buford?
Absolutely, Pauline.
I'm going to show you proof on everything so Mr. Easler, or LZ, whatever his name is, can have it also. Save him some research. And nobody's a good researcher because there's some things that's not even come out. So, guys, I'm almost 70 years old. You can't embarrass me. You can't threaten me. You can't do nothing to me that I really care about at this point in life. I've lived a good life, and I don't scare. Chief Fred McCoy, Chief of Police. Now, when he done this, I'd already left. The sheriff fired us 3 days later. We turned him in on August the 7th of '89. He fired us, myself and my partner, Paul Hatfield. Hatfield and McCoy. And he fired us 3 days later. So by this time, I've already gone. I'm already working and have been at the Houstonville Police Department, a little small police department in central Kentucky, about 35 miles from Lexington, Kentucky. Reference, Pike County investigation. Dear Fred and Paul, allow me to apologize. I'm going to leave this up there. You guys can read it for yourself. I'm not going to read every line because there's too many things I want to go through today. I can share in your frustrations over the apparent delay in the processing of the above captioned matter. Guys, what happened in the delay is, and I'll show you his picture after a while, the Commonwealth Attorney, the sheriff, one of the very people, the sheriff's friend, one of the very people that we had also named to the state police and named to the FBI as corrupt, that's who was going to hear this case. We tried to get him to pass it on to another Commonwealth Attorney from the beginning. State police did, the FBI did, recuse himself is the word I was looking for. And he failed to do it. He waited until after he seen the entire file because the FBI stepped aside. After this FBI agent come up on murder charges, they turned it over to the state police, and the state police had to go through the Commonwealth Attorney's office. He reviewed every file with the state police special investigator. And then after he done that and knew what was on each one of the county officials there, then he says, well, I'm going to recuse myself. I'm going to step aside now. Well, it's a year and a half, 2 years later. Why now? Why didn't you do that to begin with? The state police investigator had been asking for a grand jury to convene a grand jury for months. He finally steps aside. Well, it would come out later on the reason why, because any of the misdemeanor charges on these public officials, Kentucky has 1 year limitation on it, so all those would have been dismissed. I can only assure you that this matter is not closed, nor has it been concluded. Now, I'm reading a letter here, but I've also got taped conversations with the state police special investigator that was investigating this case. And so we were already told, and he was as upset over it as we were. The detective working the case was as upset over John Paul Runyon, the Commonwealth Attorney, putting his request off for a grand jury as we were. Not only in this office, involved in conjunction with the Kentucky State Police, but also we have called upon the resources of administrative office of the courts. Now, I've talked about files, hundreds of files been missing, where the sheriff or his deputy would go over there and pull traffic tickets, pull DUI citations, pull arrest records, slip them in his shirt, carry them out of the office, and destroy them. They went into the trash. Once they went into the trash, that case was dismissed. There's no easier way in the world to dismiss a court case than pick up the file out of the clerk's office, throw it in the garbage can, and leave, because that case is dismissed. There's no record of it, unless you had a couple of detectives that were wise to that fact and made copies of all their files before they turned anything in. And then citations and everything was still there to show the state police and the FBI and the administrative office of the courts. And then it helps them make it easier to prove their case. It says they've called for a status conference and a case review. We have just completed doing So, over the past 2 days, I think you are aware that Detective Pace was coming to Frankfurt. Detective Pace had notified us. We talked to Detective Pace many a times on the telephone. He's now retired. He retired during this case. They had to close this case out even after he retired, the ones that they didn't charge or get. He told us when he come in there, we told him about corruption and about and he said he's never been told to back off on a case in his career with the state police. That was his words. He was known as the Bulldog or something was his nickname. And he said that he sticks with the case till he solves it. He's never been told to back off on a case during his career with the state police. Well, the end of it, he told us, he said, guys, I've been to school. That was his words. He told Fred and Paul, I've been to school. We knew what he meant. He got educated. We believe in most areas. We did identify several, could be beneficial. We did identify several other areas where there appears to be some fine-tuning, which necessitates perhaps one more trip back to Pikeville. And they're talking about John Paul Runyon's office as far as him taking his time on notifying the Attorney General's office to assign another prosecutor to this case that he was going to recuse himself. There were several things they went back to Pikeville many a times for prior to submitting this matter to a grand jury, as has been indicated all along. All along, we knew it would be going to the grand jury because the proof was there. We had the tapes. We had the evidence. The assistance of AOC has been tremendous. We would not have been able to accomplish what we have without the benefit of their assistance. Administrative Office of the Courts, that's who keeps up with all the court documents, records, citations, all that. The Attorney General's prosecutor has been very beneficial. I don't know if you all can know what that means or not, but which Detective Pace had already told us who they were charging, what they were charging them with, and so forth, and how many they had. They had several. They're going to review every allegation. Again, I share your frustrations. Please rest assured within the near future this matter will be presented to a grand jury. Paul Richwalski. Chris Gorman was the Attorney General. Paul Richwalski was the special prosecutor that was appointed. And we were actually proud of that. We wanted him because this is the man that prosecuted Larry Mahoney. You guys may remember Larry Mahoney back in the 80s. That was the fella that killed 27 people, a DUI that killed 27 people here in Kentucky. When he crossed the center line, he was drunk and hit a church bus head-on coming from Kings Island. Bus caught on fire. 27 of them died. The rest of them that did live were mangled for the rest of their lives, either burnt or it was a sad situation. This is the man that prosecuted Larry Mahoney, Paul Richwalski. And we watched him on television and different things. We thought he was just a most upstanding guy and was going to be great. Guys, I want to show you, I copied these. I've got the letters. Some of them's downstairs on the wall and different places, but this is what this is out of. These papers are actually out of this book. And in the back of this book, Corruption Has No Boundaries, Volume 1. And in the back of this book are these letters that I'm going to go over right now. They're typed out because they're in the book. That's Volume 1. Here's Volume 2. So Mr. Elsie, he can just about, if he wants to do some research, he can just about just get them some of these books that we've already sold. We have no books for sale. Now, we quit selling everything. When we started our YouTube channel, we didn't want people saying, oh, they're just promoting their books. We don't want that, like Elam and Baldwin. On the anniversary of Black Monday, exactly 107 years after Election Day, battle between ancestors left one man shot and stabbed and 24 detectives, Paul Hatfield and Fred McCoy, together afire the political machinery of Pike County, Kentucky. That was a reporter from the Charleston Daily Mail. That was a good guy. We met all kinds of reporters during this time. And some of them were just held a special place with us, and I think we did with them, because after they looked through our files and listened to some of the tapes, they realized what we were saying was truthful. We were lucky to have Fred, McCoy, and Paul Hatfield working on drugs. Every week they were in the newspaper busting someone for drugs. We need a sheriff like these two. We wasn't interested in sheriff. We were just young cops at that time, gung-ho, and wanted to make a difference in the drug. We had a lot of teenagers overdosing there and died. One of them, it's in the book, but one of them was a school teacher at the local high school, and he had was seen giving drugs to the boy that day, and the boy wrecked that evening driving home, and either fell asleep, passed out, overdosed, whatever, and he died. FBI come in there and met with him, and met with the coroner. He was also a deputy coroner. Coroner fired him, and we got a tape of that with the FBI agent talking to the sheriff, and the sheriff says, "Oh, don't let that out. I don't want the school to know that Paul and Fred had anything to do with that. I don't want, they'll vote against me." The principal was real political there at the high school at the time, and you know, these sheriff's positions are political. Well, here's you a good example. See if we can find Jason England. But in Pike County, rumors are a dime a dozen about who will be arrested next by state and federal authorities in an investigation. It seems to be centered around the sheriff's office and the jail. Wally Warden, Wimpson Daily News editor. Wimpson Daily News editor, guys. I'll tell you who Wally Warden was. Wally Warden had a stepson. His name was Jason England. He's now deceased. There's that book. There's the coroner's van, where the coroner was, that's on, I can't see the page. But Wally Warden was the local newspaper editor, and as a favor to Fuzzy, as a favor to our sheriff, his name was Jason England. That's his police ID card. At the time I wrote this book, he was a juvenile at this time. He's 17 years old. There's where they paid the bond to deputize him. There's his application for training at the police academy. The police academy actually lied when the newspaper went and talked to him and said no. There's where he made it through 5 or 6 of the classes he had to retest, because he was failing every test at the academy, and they would write a letter to the sheriff. So this guy right here, there's the class he was in, class 3 of the sheriff's department. This Wally Warden was his stepfather, and he asked the sheriff, he said, Jason wants to go to the police academy. My brother was going to the police academy at that time, and he was a karate student, and he wanted to go with him. And we done told the sheriff, we had a tape, because this boy had told my brother in karate class, he said, Wally's going to get Fuzzy, let me go to police academy with you. And Barry said, you can't go, Jason, you're only 17 years old. He said, you got to be 21. He said, no, Wally knows Fuzzy. And we knew Fuzzy also, myself and Detective Hatfield. And we went to Fuzzy and we put a tape recorder in a cigarette pack and put it in Paul's pocket. And we told Fuzzy that Wally Warden was going to be contacting him. What about? We said, he wants you to send a 17-year-old boy to the police academy. Fuzzy, he said, oh, Lord, I can't do that. And we said, we know that. We just want to let you know. Oh, Lord, no, I can't do it. Next thing you know, Jason shows up and showing Barry an ID card where he's a deputy sheriff, a Pike County deputy sheriff. He's a 17-year-old boy, just got out of high school that year. Unbelievable. But that's Wally Warden's. That was in his editorial. That wasn't yay or nay for us. We wasn't Wally's 2 favorite people, but it was according to what day it was on, whether Fuzzy was or not. But I thought that was interesting. Justice is not well served by silence. The people of Pike County deserve answers. And that one right there, I must have cut the bottom of it off, but that is a reporter, from the Carrier Journal. From the Carrier Journal in Louisville. And Detective McCoy has worked very hard and dedicated himself as an honest professional police officer, has resulted in eliminating many hardcore criminals, and especially in work and drug investigation has been superior. Eddie Harris, that was a magistrate. He went on to become county judge in Pike County. After that, he was a magistrate at that time, but he went on to become county judge. Fred has the unique combination of street smarts, common sense, and temperament to make a successful police officer. Fred has assisted me in several cases. His tenacity and work ethics are unparalleled, and I feel privileged to have had the opportunity to work with him. Mark Putnam, Special Agent, FBI. That used to mean something to me. When he wrote that about me, that really meant something. When he wrote that to me, he wasn't a convicted murderer. Mark Putnam is the FBI agent, one of them, that myself and my partner went to, that was investigating the sheriff. I thought was one of the most honorable people that God ever strung a gut through. I was wrong. But that's how he felt about me, and I think his feelings about me was sincere. He had no reason to say that about me at the time, so I'll take it as a compliment. Detective McCoy is committed to public service by providing professional police protection to the community. He strives at all times to maintain high professional standards, and he communicates and works well with others. Charles Huffman, Pike County District Judge. It's not justice, referring to the system of Pike County Sheriff's Office. It's a mockery of justice. It's not there to protect those who are innocent. It's there to protect those who are guilty. Debbie Wolf, this was an office deputy sheriff. She took care of all the warrants, subpoenas. See, guys, it got to the point in Pike County where sheriff wanted us to drop charges against certain drug dealers. He'd order myself and Detective Hatfield, don't show up for court. Don't do this, don't do that. Well, we would show up anyway. We would show up because if you don't show up for court, a judge will dismiss your case for lack of prosecution. So we showed up anyway. It come to the point where Fuzzy was telling this lady and other deputy sheriffs in the office, bring the subpoenas to Fred and Paul, to him. Any subpoenas you get for Fred and Paul, bring to him, and he wanted to look at them first. And then he started trashing them. He started throwing subpoenas away. We started having drug dealers, and the charges were being dismissed on them. Not just drug dealers, other people too. If it was a friend of the sheriff or a big political favor he could get out of it, we wouldn't get a subpoena. We didn't show up for court. The judge has no other choice but to dismiss the case. Myself and Paul were professional. We wanted to do our job. It would have killed us to not shown up for court had we got a subpoena. Fred and Paul are two of the best officers to ever been in Pike County. That was from Gene Hall. That was a funeral home director. That's who's going to bury me someday. His son is one of my best friends, but his dad was one of the most honorable people in Pike County, if not the most, next to my father. There was no better man than Gene Hall. He was the owner of Rogers Funeral Home. He's now deceased, but that's one of my favorite letters. I've got a whole letter down there where he wrote. This is just because at the time, guys, I was going to go somewhere else. Just like every time I try to get off this Buford Pusser case, or I try to get off of something, it seems like something else comes up and it goes a different direction. I was actually going to run. I was actually just going to leave. And then the sheriff threatens me and Detective Hatfield. He threatens our families. He said he worried about our families, our kids getting blown up. Well, that's when we went to the media. Deputy McCoy has always been able to maintain an excellent level of community relations, which of course reflects positively on the police agency. Assistant County Attorney. Why did the sheriff keep us? Because we did reflect well on the agency. He loved having people out there working drugs. Get the ones that voted against him. He told us one time, guys, he was looking through the list. He said, bring me the list. I want to know who you're going to get. And Paul said, why, Fuzzy? He said, well, I just want to look at it. And he went through it. We had like 32 drug arrests to make, and he marked out like 16 of them. Put a line to them, X beside them. Hold on to these. Hold on. What do you mean, Fuzzy? Hold on. Well, just hold on. I'll get back with you. Well, the last time he done that, one of the guys we went to arrest, he didn't have nothing. And we knew he just got a shipment in that day, so we knew what had happened. And then he runs across this one guy's name, and he says, this one right here, I wouldn't care if a man planted something on him. I gave him $200 to haul voters for me last election. And dang, if he didn't go, he didn't say dang, but dang, if he didn't go haul my opponent's voters. I wouldn't care if somebody planted something on him. That's what we was working for. But he liked it as long as we was getting the ones that he didn't like. As long as it was drug dealers, because he marked them out. And I said, Fuzzy, what about these here? I said, that's like shutting Kroger's and Piggly Wiggly down. Everybody's going to go to Winn-Dixie to buy their groceries. You're shutting these drug dealers down. We're arresting these drug dealers, and you're letting them go. All their customers are just going to go over to them. We didn't do it. We went back. We went and shaved, took our earrings out, cut our hair. I had hair then, and went back in uniform. That was our drug career. We stopped it. If we can't get them all, we don't get none. And then we went public. We went to the FBI. Fred is one of the most dedicated officers I have ever worked with. He is honest, loyal. Well, he didn't know that we wasn't so loyal because we turned him and his boss in later. And very knowledgeable. In short, Fred is what a real police officer should be, a true professional. That's what Jack longed to be. He just didn't pursue it. He wanted to be like Paul and I. He just didn't have it in him. There was just no money in it. There was no prestige in it. He had to please the sheriff. McCoy is without a doubt, along with his partner Hatfield, the most outstanding law enforcement officers with the Pike County Sheriff's Office. McCoy is very hardworking and an honest law enforcement officer who has earned the trust of special agents of the FBI resident agency. Ron Poole, senior resident agent, FBI. Ron was the senior. He was over Mark Putnam in the FBI office. Guys, Pike County is the biggest county east of the Mississippi geographically, but we didn't have but 2 FBI agents, and that's both of them. We went to both of them on the sheriff, and both of them was investigating a corrupt sheriff. You'll hear later on where Ron Poole went on to arrest 4 sheriffs and a police chief on mine and Paul's information. We had informants that notified us what was going on in other counties and that our sheriff was dealing with. Our sheriff was in on them. And he got 4 of them and a police chief, but I'll show you the newspaper article. We've done that one before. Fred's aggressive pursuit of investigating leads. Now, you know, Mike Elam says, nobody does nothing. It's a little small town. He's just a little small town. I said for the first 16 years I was in larger counties, but he says, what could he do, write a parking ticket? Well, this is John Stalls. This is a FBI agent. He's probably still an agent. He's probably in charge somewhere today because he was outstanding. Fred's aggressive pursuit of investigating leads in the case enabled us to uncover 3 bank robbers, 2 murders, several arsons, a counterfeiting operation, and mail fraud violation. Fred has performed his duties in an exemplary manner in rural eastern Kentucky and has constantly produced noteworthy results. There's you a good FBI agent. And again, at the time, all the agents wrote about Paul and I. They felt that way. It wasn't us that messed up. It was the other 2 that messed up. But this is how they felt about us. We solved a bank robbery. We had a rash of bank robberies, and Paul and I solved a bank robbery, and we'd invited, when we got the search warrant and went back to look for these counterfeiting copiers and stuff, we invited the FBI agents to go with us. They went while we were there. I climbed up into they shoved me up into a little hole in the garage in the attic, and there's the gloves, the mask, the money bags, everything dealing with the bank robbers. We gave it to the FBI. It's your case. You know, you sure? You don't? We didn't care. Me and Paul Hatfield was not glory hogs. We did not. We done it for law enforcement, and these guys were exceptional. They prosecuted the bank robbers federally, and John Stalls was all of them at that time. All of the agents at that time were good, honorable agents. It is rare to find a young man in law enforcement with dedication Freddie has. and his frustrations with the way the political system in the county is something you seldom see. See, I was frustrated, guys. I was frustrated with chiefs and sheriffs. I was frustrated with Commonwealth attorneys, prosecutors. Shelley Loftus, deputy sheriff. This was a deputy sheriff, and he also owned a guns and knives place. Today, there's another feud in Pike County involving Hatfield and McCoy. See, the media love this. They love talking about the Hatfields and McCoys feuding with the sheriff. This time, however, the principals are lawmen, not outlaws, and they have band together to battle the local sheriff. That reporter there he heard our tapes, he knew what we had, he knew the sheriff was corrupt, and every time he could write anything, editorial or anything, it was always in our favor, because he knew he couldn't put everything in the paper. I have known Fred for the last several years while serving as Pike County Deputy Sheriff, and have always found him to be very knowledgeable, excelling in the investigation of criminal matters. Fred is a very impressive young man who has all the attributes as to perform exceptionally well in any police agency. Gary Rose, he was a commander over the state police, the captain over Post 9 in Pikeville. Gary Rose went on to become the Kentucky State Police Commissioner in Frankfort. He went on to become for years and years the Commissioner of the Kentucky State Police. The picture painted was one of law enforcement gone wild. It was a picture of special protection from the law for certain people. Todd Murphy, there he is, staff writer, the Carrier Journal. That's not my words. This is one of the biggest newspapers in the state of Kentucky. The picture painted was one of law enforcement gone wild. We showed him and let him hear it. This is the reporter that went to the sheriff and said, Sheriff, he asked us, the reporter asked us one day, he said, can you show us anything? And we didn't want to impeach any tapes we had, any articles or documents. We was afraid to show anything where they could get it thrown out when it come to court. And we said, well, we'll let you hear one tape. He just stuck his hand. We had a briefcase, and we said, just pull the one out. It don't matter. Because we knew they were all incriminating. We knew it would be something dealing with. And he stuck his hand down in there, and about, I don't know how many tapes there was, but he pulled one out, and the one he pulled out, we put in the recorder, and we played it. And it was us questioning the sheriff and about the warrants. And he's saying, I don't want you serving that warrant. Do not serve that warrant. He got on to us about serving some other warrants. And these are on drug dealers. It was on general public also, but it was also drug dealers. And he heard the sheriff say, I don't want you serving that. Do not serve that warrant. And well, Todd Murphy here, the reporter, he goes to Pikeville, and it's on the news. Go back through footage there, and you'll see it. And he questions the sheriff, and he says, Sheriff, what about these boys saying that, because we were young then, guys. We were boys. We were so young and stupid. But he says, what about these boys saying that you told them not to serve warrants on drug dealers and on different people? He said, that's a lie. That's a lie. That's never been said. I've never said nothing like that. And he says, is that right? And he said, the sheriff said, yeah, that's right. And he said, well, Sheriff, do you mind if I play you a tape? And he said, no, go ahead. And he plays that tape, and Sheriff says, I don't want you serving this warrant. Don't serve this. And it was a drug dealer, that we even believe nowadays was involved in the murder of one of our best informants that we ever had. We believe that it's in the book, but again, the book's not for sale. But I've got some interesting stories in there. But so anything we say, Mr. Elsie, Mr. Elam, Mr. Baldwin, we try to proof or truth with proof. A sheriff who puts people to the work in business of making friends with people, gaining their confidence, and then bringing charges against them. This is the art of a narc. Now, this guy here is he's an attorney, a good attorney, one of the best attorneys in Pikeville, Kentucky. But he had an article in the newspaper. It was called Red Dog. And they gave him an editorial that he would do, and that was his words. The sheriff shouldn't hire people. If you're going to hire narcs to narc on everybody else, you better watch, because those masters of disguises can turn on the one doing the hiring. It wasn't the one doing the hiring, guys. It was a corrupt sheriff. We appreciated the job. We appreciated the employment, but that's not the way law enforcement works. This is the last one. I have accompanied Fred on several of his drug raids. I cannot say enough of his professionalism. He seems capable to handle any situation arising in the most stressful condition. I know Fred is well-trained, level-headed officer. Fred is known in the area by all law enforcement agencies for his extensive drug and narcotics investigation. Fred, in my opinion, is unsurpassed in this field. Pre-trial release. This is the guy that would do the pre-trial release once we would bring them to jail, and he would interview the people. Guys, this right here, when I was I was early 20s, 23, 21, Commonwealth attorney withdraws from the sheriff's probe. That man's name is John Paul Runyon. That was the prosecutor, Mr. Easley, just like Fuzzy Kazee was the sheriff in Pike County for years and years and years. This was the prosecutor. Fuzzy's daddy was the sheriff before him, and John Paul Runyon, his father, was the prosecutor before him, if I'm not mistaken. This is the guy right here that told me one time when I was in there talking about being in the attic, and a guy had a gun, and he said, you should have rid society of them, Fred. This is a prosecutor, and we're in the sheriff's office. And he said, you should have rid society of them, Fred. And I said, John Paul, it's not my place to rid society of him. It's my place to bring him to jail, and your place to prosecute him. And I thought, this was an honorable man to me. He's like everybody else. At one time, I looked up to these guys. I voted for this man for elections. My dad voted for him. My dad loved these guys. They grew up together. Something about public office that makes people, they just change. They just lose all, just like we're seeing with the TBI and Mr. Davison, in my opinion. People just want more. They want, after Paul and I returned to Kentucky from delivering our files to Agent Putnam in Miami, John Paul Runyon decides to get busy. This woman had been calling for an investigation into the disappearance of her sister, and what they done, and she suspected that the agent was responsible for it, and they transferred him to Miami, Florida. She's pregnant. She done showed everybody the pregnancy test. They transferred him out. He was free. We thought they transferred him because of him investigating the sheriff. We thought the sheriff actually had him transferred. We didn't know all this. And he says, I'll tell the FBI Geraldo's going to be knocking on your door. See, John Paul didn't want nothing to do with this case. Nobody investigated Susan Smith's disappearance. Nobody. Until they transferred Mark Putnam to Miami. Paul and I thought they transferred him to get him off the case. We even take the rest of our files to Mark Putnam in Miami, Florida, to the FBI office. FBI office calls Mark on the road and says, you know any Hatfield and a McCoy from Kentucky? He said, yeah. They said, we thought it was a joke. A Hatfield and a McCoy? He said, yeah, I used to work with them. And Mark tells later on that he thought Paul and I was there to arrest him for killing the girl. We didn't. Just got fooled. We just trusted people. You know, used to be I trusted everybody. Now I don't trust nobody. Once upon a time, I trusted everybody. And now I trust nobody. Now, guys, I'm going to show you some pictures here. I'm just going to go through them fast, but it'll just give you a little bit of a thing, because I did one video on this on my law enforcement career and things like that, and there's nothing better than a picture or video and things to show proof, and I'm just going to skim through these because Mr. Elam and Baldwin says they're police officers, 35 years, and Elam says he retired as a law enforcement officer. Most places it says he was sheriff. Now, don't think that they didn't get that story from somewhere. He says, I never told nobody that. Well, who else would go out and tell somebody that a person's sheriff other than yourself? And Mr. Elam, he says he's a martial artist. Not Mr. Elam, Mr. Elsie. He says that he's a martial artist. So he can tell you that all day long. I've seen him working on a heavy bag, and I don't think he could fight his way out of a onion sack, but let me show down through here. There I am at 17 years old. 17 years old, right out of high school, went into the Marine Corps. There I am in Cape Pendleton, California, after I left Paris Island. California, Cape Pendleton. There's some Quonset huts behind where Gomer Pyle used to. There I am with our first child. That's me and Sheila when we've been married about 1.5 years, 2 years there. And there's our daughter. There I am I'm a detective there. You can see in my pocket, that's a badge. He's holding a set of handcuffs. That guy to the left there is Brett Michaels with poison. We met him at a police class we were at, and they were having a concert, Poison was, and we stayed in the same hotel as they did and met them and gave them a pair of handcuffs. And long story with that set of handcuffs because we forgot to give them a set of keys to it. And we gave him our business cards. He couldn't believe that he met a Hatfield and a McCoy from Kentucky. There I am in the police academy. That's me in the police academy. Come back from lunch early. There I am when I retired. I'm a couple of stripes short. They should be 2 more hash marks on that left arm, but never did put them on there. But I had 40 years in law enforcement. Probably can't see that picture real good, but there I am in the Marine Corps. There I am, a young deputy. There I am with the Pike County Sheriff's Department. There, undercover, retired, and then that's me with the beard. There's my first day back at the gym, guys. Oh, I'm sorry. You guys are probably looking at this guy here. That's not me. I'm over here trying to put my shorts on. That's me in the background. Okay, it's a joke. I thought I might get a giggle out of it. This guy's name here, if you're from Florida, this guy's a karate instructor in Florida. He's still on my Facebook page, I believe, his friends. Outstanding guy, Don Willis. Don Willis broke a world record back in his day. He broke 300 pounds of concrete on him, and he weighed 150 pounds. I break his record later on. There I am where I'm a referee, Professional Karate Association, actual referee for full contact karate. That's JT Will's signature at the bottom there. Anybody that's familiar with Knight Rider or full contact karate in the 80s, JT Will was the head referee for the Professional Karate Association, and he refereed all the big world championship fights back when they were on ESPN and all these channels. That's JT Will. That's a friend of ours over the years he became before he passed away, officiating. There's where I'm a Professional Karate Association official, judge, certified as a judge, all that, JT Will. There's myself and my brother back in the day with JT Will. JT Will's a student of Ed Parker. Ed Parker, you all might remember, was the karate instructor of Elvis Presley. Ed Parker is the one that awarded Elvis Presley his black belt and used to train with him. Elvis used to get on stage and do all his katas and different things. It's enjoyable sport. Enjoyable and useful in life sometimes. But that's Mr. J.T. Will, now deceased. That's myself on the left, my brother on the far right, and our other brother in the middle. It's not our brother in the middle, but you would have thought he was. He was a good guy. That was one of our instructors that we trained, and he taught at one of our karate schools for us for years. He's now deceased also. He got in a fight, and a fella took a short sword. In martial arts, you got the long sword, the short sword, and nunchucks, bow staff, kamas, tonfas, all these different weapons. But Walter there got in a fight with a guy, and the guy pulled out a short sword and stabbed him, killed him. He was a good, extremely good martial artist. I'll tell you what we did, guys. I'll tell you, we used to go everywhere and fight, full contact karate. We went everywhere. Myself, and especially my brother. My brother was more the ring. We promoted him and Walter Henry. We put Walter Henry one time. They used to have at the Continental Inn. Anybody's from Kentucky? They used to have a Continental Inn, it was called, in Lexington, Kentucky. They had a bar inside, and they started holding full contact karate fights. This was in the 80s, and we took the black instructor there. We took Walter down there with us, and we cut his hair into a mohawk. That's back in the day when Mr. T was a big deal, and we cut Walter's, talked him into cutting his hair into a mohawk, and he's about 7 feet tall. He was huge man. And he could do a split. He could kick the ceiling flat-footed over his head. He was incredible. But he got down there, and he was a good showboat. He was really good at show. He could really put on demonstrations, but when he got in the ring, sometimes he would lose it. And we set him up a fight with the Kentucky State Tough Man winner. Somebody may remember this. This was back in the early 80s. And they got in the ring, and they started fighting. And this Tough Man, Walter, was great. He had them big long legs. He could fight from a distance. But if you got in close on him, he would panic. And especially if you're a boxer. Well, this Tough Man guy that had won the Kentucky State Tough Man contest, he was a boxer. And so once he got in close on Walter, he stayed in. That's the way you do a martial artist. Don't let them use their legs. Stay in close. And he was punching the far out of Walter. And Walter just out of the blue. That's where martial arts comes in, though. Walter come around with a forearm, an elbow, forearm slashed to his jaw. And he busted his whole head open. He took that elbow and that forearm, and that man hit the mat. He's a bloody mess. We have got Lexington, Kentucky. Those people in that nightclub, first of all, they're drunk. Second of all, we're in Kentucky. Walter's originally from New Jersey, so he's not a local boy. He's an outsider. We had to sneak out the back door. We had several fights that night. We had other karate fighters there with us too that had done fought. This was the main event, luckily, so everybody had got their fights in. This was the last fight of the night. And we had to sneak out there because that crowd went crazy, mad over Walter. There's Mr. Elsie. There's you back in the day. That's me. Back in the day. I'm not going to, it's like I'm bragging. I know it is. I'm really not. I'm trying to show Mr. Elsie the difference of saying that you're a martial artist and actually been a martial artist. McCoy's Sports Productions. I promoted all the karate fights. We both taught at karate schools, myself and my brother. He trained the fighters, and I promoted. McCoy Sports Production was ours. And we had our own boxing ring, karate ring, and we would go around and put on karate shows. That's where we broke the world record, January the 25th. Google Wimpson Daily News, Wimpson, West Virginia. You can read about it, world record break. Fred McCoy lays on a bed of nails. His brother Barry breaks 348 pounds of concrete. That was 88 pounds, over double my body weight. There I'm arresting Santa Claus. There's you another funny photo. That Santa Claus is actually the Lincoln County jailer in Lincoln County, Kentucky at this time. One of the finest fellas you ever meet. That's Santa Claus there. And one of the best friends I ever had. There's just a memorabilia wall. J.T. Will, Bill Wallace, Chuck Norris, Who's Who in Martial Arts books. There I am in the center of the ring. There we are again before a fight. That's a wall that Mother had in the museum. J.T. Will. McCoy sets sights. There you go. You can go to Wimpson Daily News, archive newspapers, and you can see arrest. You can see that's where I spent most of my first 10 years of a career in law enforcement and martial arts. There we are. We was on PM Magazine several times, a news, WSAZ out of Huntington, West Virginia. I don't know if they still got the tape or not, but they come in 2 or 3 times and videoed and done shows on our karate fights and world record especially. There's Joe Corley in the middle, Bill Wallace. I'm trying to look, guys, because my vision is so bad. Don Willis, several martial artists there. If you look at that big poster there, look right down here in this corner. Second one up from the bottom. Who is that? Look at that. Who is that fella? Guys, that's some of the greatest martial artists there is in the United States on that board right there. Some of the greatest, some of the best. There's Fred McCoy. We used to have 13 karate schools, my brother and I, throughout eastern Kentucky, West Virginia, and Virginia. We would travel around different places each day, teaching karate also. Professional karate. There's where I fought in 1984. That's J.T. Will. He actually refereed our fight. We actually promoted that fight. Movie star and stuntman, J.T. Will. Like I said, he was in several of the Knight Rider. He was a regular on Knight Rider, getting in bar fights and things like that. There's the actual photograph of the blocks when they broke. I'm laying on a bed of nails. My feet's up off the floor, nothing on there. And then I wonder why I've got back issues, along with a police career. There's one of my fights. There's the guy laying on the deck, and that's J.T. Will standing there, and I'm standing beside of him. There's Bill Superfoot Wallace. Anybody that's ever been in martial arts, that's myself and my brother. We've got pictures with Chuck Norris, all of them. You could, but you can get pictures with anybody like that. You just go to these seminars and these tournaments and these things, and they'll take pictures with you. But that was there. We went to all. We were big into martial arts at one time. This right here you'll see later on. That's going to come into, that's the day after my mother passed away. That's a fresh tattoo the day after my mother passed away. There's a story behind that. There's my mother and father the next day after I graduated from Paris Island and was a Marine. There's my mother and me. There's my better half. Love of my life. There I am, retired. Not my problem anymore. Guys, I know it seems like I'm probably, but I just wanted to show some of these things. Now, what I want to show you now is a video of my mother. Here's my pride and joy.
Yeah, he's not a mama's boy.
He's not?
No.
Oh, what is he?
She's been calling me a mama's boy all day. Guys, Sheila and I kept my mother for the last 5 years of her life. She had dementia, and of course, anybody that's got anybody with dementia or Alzheimer's, you know it gets worse. It gets worse day by day. And she's got dementia. You'll see her change the subject here. You'll see how she loses where she's at. But this is in... Mother grew up in the old days where you didn't call nobody a mama's boy. If you called somebody a mama's boy in the 40s and 50s and such, you were making fun of them, and she didn't believe in that. So she always thought that calling somebody a mama's boy was insulting. But you'll see here at the video.
Well, we'll call her Daddy's girl.
Well, her and Sharon were. They were both Daddy's girls.
Yeah.
No,
But
this
you
was a
telling
mommy's
her
girl.
not to call me a mama's boy, wasn't you?
Yeah.
Why don't you want me to call him a mama's boy?
Cause I don't like that name.
Is he a mama's boy?
No.
What is he?
He's a regular teenager.
That's right.
It's Owen.
A teenager. Called me a mama's boy, trying to hurt my feelings, I believe.
I heard you.
Huh?
Because I've got two already laid out.
To what? See how her mind wanders. She trying to hurt my feelings, call me a mama's boy.
Yeah. She's trying to hurt your feelings.
I could tell the way she said it.
Yeah. You get that in there.
Huh?
You get that in there.
In where?
In everywhere it's at.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's right of her to call me that.
No, it ain't.
I love my mother, but I ain't a mama's boy, am I?
No.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not.
He's not a mama's boy? Look at him.
He is a mama's boy. I love happy.
That's all I want to hear, Mom.
Mama's boy.
Look at that left forearm, guys. Say, oh God, look at that face I stopped me on. Oh my God. Look at that left forearm. It's bare as it can be, clean as it can be. The next day after Mama died, I went and got my tattoo, Mama's Boy.
I love you.
Now, guys, I'm going to tell you something. There's a lot to this Mama's Boy stuff. There's a lot to things. And again, Sheila and I have said from the beginning, there's a reason for us being like we take up for Buford Pusser or anybody for that matter. So we're just waiting. Started to put it out the other day, and I said, no, just let it go. Let's just wait. But eventually, we'll tell you some stuff. We'll show you some stuff, and you may understand better a lot of things. Guys, I think that's going to do it on this video. I think it's, all right, shucks, we're still under an hour. But these guys, it's Mr. Elam and Baldwin and Elsie, they can investigate Fred all they want. See, I don't care about that, but it's not about investigating Fred. What they're trying to do is redirect from Buford Pusser. They realize that they have put their foot in their mouth. They realize they've made some bad mistakes now because they realize that there's some legal repercussions coming their way. So they're trying to change anything, any direction they can. I don't care. It don't bother me. Gives me content to cover. But anything, any questions you got of me, all you got to do is ask, and I'll show you or tell you or anything about it. And believe me, with a 40-year career, oh, I've got all kinds of stories to tell. So other than that, I'm going to end this video. I hope it was enlightening a little bit. I know it's a little bit like that other one I made, the self-promotion. I'm not self-promoting myself. I'm self-proving with proof my career and some of the things that I've done. I don't get on there and tell you I'm a martial artist and throw haymakers at a bag coming from a half a mile around the room to hit a bag that's directly in front of you. A martial artist doesn't throw haymakers. A martial artist throws direct punches. That's your first telltale sign there. So when somebody tells you something, you don't always believe everything. And when I saw that video, I knew, I'll show you a martial artist. I'll show you a police officer. I'll show you a detective. I'll show you an investigator. It's not to brag, but this is my YouTube channel, and I figure, shucks, it's mine. I'll throw it out there if anybody wants to watch it. And for the two of you that's still there, I thank you. Thanks, guys.